Hello students, I welcome you all to the fifth lecture of Sociology Optional. You know that we have already completed 4 lectures and this is the final video lecture for free which is available in our YouTube channel CSAP. A small information before we go ahead, and it is about the scholarship test which we are conducting on 27th of this month. I request all of you to participate in it. It will definitely help you to see and analyze your performance of your last many months hard work. At the same time, you will also see a competitive environment among a lot of candidates across the state of Assam for the upcoming APSC exam. So if anyone have not yet registered, please go to our Facebook page, that is CSAP, or you can also join the free WhatsApp groups or our Telegram channel. The link has been provided in the description box of this video lecture, and you can download the registration link and register yourself for the scholarship test. And if not, you can also contact the given number which is right there in the description box, and you will get the registration details and everything. I also request all of you to download the CSAP app that is present in both Play Store as well as in Apple iStore, where you will get a lot of exciting courses, and at the same time you will also get the free PDF materials for daily current affairs. At the same time, daily answer writing question and answers on a weekly basis. So let's start with the sociology class for today. And as you know that in the last lecture we were discussing about the scope of the subject, that is sociology, which is a part of the syllabus of chapter 1 of your paper 1. The last part of chapter 1 was left over and we are going to complete it in this session. So the first topic that we are going to start in today's class is about sociology and history, because you all know, if you look at the syllabus, that in the syllabus it is present as sociology and comparison with other social sciences. When we were studying about the scope of the subject, that is sociology, we first talked about the evolution of different ideas by different thinkers or sociologists across various places, right from France to Germany to America to Italy to many other places, even in India. Secondly, we talked about the broadening up of the scope or widening of the scope of the subject from different time perspective. That is, we discussed about the initial phase of evolution of sociology, where we talked about the founding fathers like Auguste Comte and his contribution to sociology. Then we talked about Emile Durkheim and so on. But when we talked about Emile Durkheim, it gradually started from the second phase, right? If you have not checked the video yet, please go back and check video lecture number 4. And there we talked about the evolution of two different subject or schools under sociology, that is the formal school and the synthetic school, or the evolution of the micro and macro sociology, where the debate started between the micro sociology, that is the formal school of sociology, and where we talked about Max Weber, George Simmel, and on the other hand we talked about the macro school of thought, where we talked about Emile Durkheim and so on. And gradually after that, in the third phase, we talked about when the combination of micro and macro took place and the scope of sociology further widened up with the coming of thinkers like Talcott Parsons, Robert K. Martin. And at last we also talked about the contemporary school or the contemporary scope of sociology. So now the third part of the scope of sociology is about how sociology is related to different subjects or social sciences. Okay, so with this help of comparison of sociology with other subjects, we'll also try to understand the scope of the subject, that is sociology. So first subject that we are we have picked up is sociology and history. Now you know that history and sociology have a very close relation. Okay, I'll tell you that the sociology subject and history is having what you need to remember. It is having a close relation. All right. Now, what is this close relation? If I ask you what is this close relation, we will understand this close relation with the help of lot of examples that a lot of thinkers have given. Okay. For example, when we talk about Karl Marx, okay, I had already told you about the Karl Marx and his historical materialism. Okay, his topic of historical materialism. Even in that topic of historical materialism, Karl Marx has used history in order to bring up a sociological sense of social change. Even when we talk about Max Weber, and I had given you an example of study which was done by Max Weber, and it was the Protestant, right? It was what? It was Protestant ethics and spirit of capitalism, right? In this study of Protestant ethics and spirit of capitalism also, Max Weber had used history in order to do a sociological analysis of the growth of capitalism. Okay, so you can see that how beautifully there is a close relation between history and sociology. So let us go ahead. Historians almost as a rule study the past, right? Because it is a job of the historians to study what? To study the past. Sociologists are more interested in the contemporary or recent past. So this is the basic difference about the subject matter of sociology and history. Okay, historians earlier were content to delineate the actual events, to establish how things actually happened, while in sociology the focus was to seek to establish causal relationship. Okay, what does this statement mean? It talks about that if in sociology, for example, if we are talking about Protestant ethics, okay, if we are talking about, for example, say we are talking about Protestant ethics, okay, and if we are talking about Protestant ethics and spirit of capitalism, so there is a causal relation. Okay, there is a causal relation. And what is this causal relation? If I ask you, what is this causal relation between Protestant ethics and spirit of capitalism? That because of the growth of Protestant ethics, that is a part of religion, okay, there was capitalism, rise of capitalism in the society. Now that is a relation. Okay, there is a relation between growth of religion, okay, one type of religion, and one type of economy. Okay, so there is this relation. Now what is this relation? That relation will be studied by sociology, but history will not try to analyze from this perspective. Okay, so history studies the concrete details, while sociologist is more likely to abstract from concrete reality. All right, so if we talk about like the history and sociology, so we can simply say in one line that historians, what they are trying to study, they are studying the past. Okay, but sociology is trying to study the contemporary or the recent past or the present time. Okay, so this is very important for you to understand that this is a very basic difference. At the same time, I would also like to tell you one point here, that history is mainly what? Of descriptive in nature, is it not? History will always describe, okay, about the events, about various war, or about various other topics. But sociology is not descriptive, it is what? It is normative in nature. Okay, now what do you mean by normative? Sociology, when I tell you that sociology is normative in nature, it means that sociology is mainly talking about the norms of the society or the growth of different norms across different time periods in society. Okay, for example, marriage within the same caste, what is that? It is a norm of the society. Okay, suppose we live in a patriarchal society, and if there in some society there is a norm that females will not go out and they will not go out for job, they will stay inside their house for household activities. What is this? This is a norm of a particular society. Now this norm may not be a universal one, okay, but sociology will try to study that why this norm, from where this norm came, and what is the impact of this norm on various aspects or dimensions of the society. All right, But history, what it will try to do, it is a, like it is studying about the different kings, the history of kings and war, their dynasty, the family. Okay, so it is not trying to give you a sociological analysis, right? So sociology and history, though both are social disciplines, okay, both are concerned with human activities. Now this is a similarity. History is also studying about the human activities, sociology is also studying about the human activities. But sociology, when it is studying human activities, it is trying to study in a different format. And what is the different format? It is trying to establish what? Pattern. Okay, it is trying to establish a patterned relationship between different social agents. Okay, but history will never try to do that. Okay, so both are very closely related and more or less considered by some thinkers as identical studies. So there will be always a confusion. Some thinkers will say that history and sociology is same, but the sociologist will never try to establish a common relationship with history, because their job is to what? It is to establish sociology as a distinct subject or discipline or body of knowledge. Okay, but one thing that we can see here, that history will always provide material for sociology. Okay, for example, if we talk about the Indian struggle of independence, okay, now there also our Indian sociologists have studied, for example, what was the impact of the colonialism on Indian society. Okay, now in order to study the impact or the sociological impact of the, because of the colonialism on Indian society, we need the materials. Okay, from, we will take the materials from history, right? So the history will always provide materials for sociology. This is a important statement that you need to remember. The comparative method and historical sociology always requires data which only the history can supply. So I hope you have understood this concept. Similarly, the historian also uses sociology. So it is both vice versa. It is not that only sociologists are using the material or the content from history, but historians also use sociology. Until recently, the historian took his clues to important problems and his concepts and general ideas from philosophy. Okay, so it was understood that till recent times, history or historians were using the concepts from philosophy. But now, as sociology developed, okay, because we know that sociology is a new distinct discipline as compared to other subjects. Philosophy, psychology, history, political science, economics, these were there in the society even before sociology evolved as a subject. Okay, so earlier history was taking the help of philosophy. Now these are drawn from sociology. History is a record of what? Notable events of men in different societies. Now we understand this. What are these notable events? For example, Battle of Plassey, okay, or Battle of Panipat, okay, or the growth of Buddhism. What are these? These are notable events of human beings in different time periods or in different societies. Okay, for example, Battle of Panipat will take place during the Mughal society. Okay, but growth of Buddhism might have taken place in a Mauryan society. Okay, different societies, different time period. So history will record the events as it is, right? For example, they will take the help of inscriptions, they will take the help of different manuscripts which are available, or they will try to take help from the art and culture which are available in front of us. Okay, so it will try to depict as it is. Sociology is concerned with the study of historical development of the societies. Okay, for example, if we take an example of Karl Marx. Now what Karl Marx will do with the history? He will study the society during the ancient primitive communism, which was a very old society. Okay, Karl Marx says that in the ancient primitive communism there was no class conflict. Okay, everything was what? Everyone was equal. Everyone was equal in that particular society. So, but Karl Marx says that after the ancient primitive communism society was gone, then came the master slave society, then came for example your feudalism society, then for example came your capitalism society. Now in all these different types of society, except the ancient primitive communism, there is always what? A class conflict. Okay, now Karl Marx will study the class conflicts by taking help of these different societies from history. Okay, And that is why we say that this historical development, how from ancient primitive capitalism or communism, sorry, it evolved a master slave society, then to a feudalistic society, and then to a capitalistic society. Now with this historical development, how there are different sociological impacts happening, or how the social changes are happening, this will be studied by Karl Marx, for example, by taking help of the subject, that is history. Okay, so sociology or sociologists will study various stages of life, modes of living, customs, manners, and their expression on the form of social institutions. So you have to remember this type of keywords. Okay, for example, if we talk about a feudalism society, so there also we can see what, that there are different social institutions even at that time period, right? So for example, if I ask you that what are the different social institutions in that particular society, there we can say that, for example, the society of economy, so the institution of economy. Okay, now in a feudalistic society, in the institution of economy, there will be household production, right? There will be household production. But if I talk about a capitalism society, in the economy or in the mode of production, there will be what? There will be factory based production, right? So you can see that the form of social institutions have changed from household production to what? To a factory based production. Okay, similarly in the modes of living, customs or manners, okay, in the institution of family, for example, if I tell you, in the pattern of marriage, okay, or in the pattern of family, okay, for example, in the feudalistic society, the family pattern may be a joint family, but in a capitalistic society it may be what? A nuclear family. So these things, okay, that is the your impact on the society because of historical development. Okay, there are different impacts on different social institutions, and these impacts are being studied in sociology by taking help of the subject, that is history. Okay, so I hope by now you have understood that what is there is a basic, there is a strong close relation. The keyword that I used for you was that history and sociology is having a close relation. So there is also a important thinker, okay, that is, he is trying to say that, his name is G.E. Howard, to mark that history is past sociology, okay, and sociology is present history. So it is a very beautiful statement. What he is trying to mean, that history is past sociology. Okay, for example, when you talk about history, okay, so history is always is talking about the past, right? History is not talking about the present, because if we write something today, it will be history after 100 years. Okay, so whatever history we read, it is talking about the past sociology. Okay, but what is sociology? Sociology is the present history, because sociology is always contemporary. It is talking about the present. Okay, it is always deriving a link with the present society, right? So this statement, as told by G.E. Howard, is also a beautiful statement which you can use it for your introduction line, or sometimes in even in exam you might get this type of statement and they might ask you to explain or elaborate this statement. Okay, so you will have to show that how history is past sociology. Okay, for example, there you will have to write about different his notable events, and there how sociological dimensions can be depicted. For example, as Karl Marx was trying to talk about historical materialism right from ancient primitive society, you can highlight with those examples. Even you can take help of Max Weber, as I have already told you. Okay, and in the second part, that is sociology is present history, there also you can talk about the present contemporary. Now this further points will come from various chapters. All right, that is why I will always tell you that in sociology, when you will write answers, your best answer will only come out when you will complete the entire syllabus, because you have to pick up points from every chapter and for every question. Okay, so then only your content will be matured. So how sociology is present history, there we will talk about various examples throughout the syllabus, and you will pick up those examples and you can write it here. Okay, that how the sociology is a present history. Now John Seeley also gives another statement, that history without sociology has no fruit, and sociology without history has no root. Now this is also a very beautiful statement. You try to understand that history without sociology, will it have some fruit? For example, if I write history, okay, that if I write history in a particular sense, for example, suppose let us discuss about the British time period in modern Indian history. Now there, for example, we are only giving the direct sources, whatever we find, maybe from some letter or some official gadgets or some uh, like official records, we try to directly quote those lines and put it in the books. Okay. Now, will that history be interesting to read? Obviously not. That's what John Searle is trying to say is that you put in the sociology in the history. Okay. For example, you talk about women, the role of women. You talk about the role of workers, their problem, the peasant movements, the tribal movements. Okay. You talk about the various forms of exploitation. For example, the brain drain, okay, or sorry, the drain of wealth theory as highlighted by three Indian economists. Okay, so you try to bring in all the other dimensions in history, and that will give fruit to the subject. Okay, and again, if we are talking about sociology without history, for example, if Karl Marx or Max Weber would not have considered rise of Protestant ethics or the religion, okay, and it would have not established the causal relationship with the for the rise of capitalism. So then sociology will not have any root. If Karl Marx similarly would not have compared the different societies and have not analyzed the social change, then without using history, then sociology obviously will not have root. Okay, so if you get this kind of statements in your examination, you have to write the answer with different examples that I am using. Okay, but throughout the syllabus you will get a lot of examples, and you have to also apply your mind and note it down wherever you can, or whatever example you can use for this kind of statements. Okay, and at the same time I will be also helping you out with the examples. So history is mainly concerned with past events. Okay, this is a common statement. It is a systematic record of study of mankind, right? Whatever records we have, we are trying to establish those, okay, in the form of the subject, that is history. History presents a chronological account of past events of human society. Now we understand that, okay, that from time to time it is being accounted. It is the social science which deals with past events and studies the past social, political, economic aspects of the country. Okay, so history is the record of past events. So see, everything is getting repeated. So there are just 2-3 major statements that you need to remember, and along with the examples you will be able to write a answer. Okay, so history is what? It is the record of the past events and movements, okay, and their interrelations. It includes various surveys, developments in economic, religious and social affairs. So this is what it is talking about, the subject of history. Then if we talk about sociology and history, okay, they both depend upon each other and also can influence on one another. This is very important for you to understand. Now we have already seen that how sociology and history are both dependent on each other, and obviously they can also influence one another. Sociology depends upon history. Why? Now, why, if I ask you why sociology depends upon history? Because we have already understood with examples that we need the records or the facts from history in order to study the sociological aspect or analyze it sociologically. And for that, if we have to have the records of the different events and the situations, okay, so that will be provided by what? History. So history of cultures and institutions is helpful in understanding of sociology. For example, if we talk about feudalism, okay, there whatever history we will get, or the different institutions, obviously with that with those records we can understand the sociological dimensions of that society, and then we can compare it with the present society. Okay, so we have to take help of history if we need to study from a sociological perspective. Okay, sociology concerned with the study of historical development of human society. Similarly, okay, how sociology is also dependent on history, or how it can be influenced by history, because when I gave you the example of Karl Marx, we have seen that how the different human societies have developed in the history. Okay, for example, from ancient primitive communism to the present capitalistic society. It studies ancient customs, okay, mode of living. As I have already told you, for example, in the feudalism society, the mode of production is what? It is the household activities. Okay, the pattern of family is what? Joint family system, for example. Okay, now these are what? These are different modes of living, but this is not the same again when we are talking about your the present capitalistic society. It has changed. Okay, but sociology is doing this sociological analysis with again the help of history. Okay, so I hope you have understood the relation, the close relation between history and society. Okay, again, if we talk about sociology provides social background of the study of history. Okay, because whatever history you are talking about or studying, you can always take the social background of that society from again sociology. Okay, history is now being studied from the sociological viewpoint also, right? History supplies facts again which can be used by different sociologists. So you see that there is what we are trying to establish. There is a close relation between what? History and sociology. So with these different examples and these different statements, you can write a very beautiful answer if you are getting that compare the subject history and sociology, or they might even ask you a question with a statement that we have already seen, one or two statements just a few minutes back. Okay, but this is what is we can talk about from the thesis perspective, as I already explained it to you. Okay, but if we talk some antithesis perspective, okay, so here in this paragraph you can see that we have established a close relationship between sociology and history, but there are also some different branches of knowledge. History is concerned primarily with the record of the past. Historian wants to describe as accurately as possible. They are not trying to give you an analysis that why did this happen, or how did this evolve. Okay, they will give you as accurately as it was, as they will find the records. Okay, they will not try to tell you that what actually happened to man during the, like why it happened or how it happened. Okay, but what actually happened, they will always give you that record directly. They will give you the record of the past. Okay, so thus all the thinkers, they will relate them to one another in a time sequence so that he can have a continuous story from the past to the present. He is not satisfied with mere description. He also seeks to learn and causes of these events, to understand the past, not only how it has been but also how to came to be. In spite of this, he is in a sense interested in events for their own sake. Okay, so what are the historians trying to do? That they are trying to study the past with whatever records they are having. Okay, and then they are relating one part of the history with the other part in the form of a continuous story, or in, you can say, in the form of a chronological perspective. But again, they are never satisfied with only the description. They also want to establish what? A causal relationship. Okay, they learn the causes of these events, like for example, if there was battle of Panipat, so why did that battle happen? Okay, or if we talk about the colonialism, the rise of colonialism in India, then they will talk about it, why or how the Britishers came and why did they come. Okay, so they, but but they, why they are interested in knowing why or how of that particular event? Because of the, because in order to study that event only for the sake of that particular event. Okay, they are not studying the causes because they want to establish a patterned relationship, or because they want to analyze it from a sociological perspective. They are not trying to do, the historians are not trying to establish this. Okay, they are studying the relations, or they are studying the or they are doing the analysis why a particular event happened, or why a particular group of or section of people like the Arabs or the Aryans came to India. Okay, they are trying to understand those causes for the sake of that particular event. Okay, but again, it is different from sociology in the sense that sociology, on the other hand, will not be interested in events but in patterns. Okay, this is very very important that they exhibit. Okay, for example, if you're talking about ancient primitive communism, or if we are talking about capitalism, or master slave society, or feudalistic slave society, we will establish a pattern. What is that pattern? Class conflict. Okay, or a conflict between the haves and the have nots. Okay, or a conflict between the bourgeoisie or the Protestants. Okay, so what are they trying to do? Or that they are establishing a pattern relationship in all types of society. Now this will not be done by the historians. Okay, so historian is interested in the unique and the particular and the individual, but sociologists are interested in what? It is interested in the universal, that if there is a class conflict, so is it available in societies across the whole world or only a particular society? Okay, so it will try to establish this pattern wherever it is they can possibly do it, but historians will not try to do that. All right, for example, if we take help of some examples like in the Napoleonic Wars, First World War, Second World War, sociologists were interested in war itself as a social phenomena. Okay, similarly, the historian and biographer are both interested in the lives and careers of famous men. Okay, so sociologists will try to establish what? The social phenomena of the war or the sociological impact, but historians, what will they try to study? They will study about the careers of famous men or the other leaders. Okay, whereas sociology is interested not in the man themselves but in the phenomena leadership, because it is a phenomena that appears in almost all social groups. So you have understood that this phenomena, for example the leadership, okay, for example if we talk about American War of Independence, okay, American War of Independence, or if we talk about, for example, French Revolution, or if we talk about Indian struggle for independence, okay, we'll study the what? Leadership as an institution. Okay, or what were the different sociological impact, okay, on suppose women. Okay, now we'll try to establish a pattern across various societies of the world, but historians will consider these events in an isolated manner. Okay, in an isolated manner only for the sake of studying that event. Okay, they will not try to establish any pattern or relationship with different events or with different societies. So I hope you have very beautifully understood the pattern, the relationship between history and sociology. So in some point sociology and history will go similar, or in some other point it will go different. Okay, so with this, like, there are some points which talks about difference between sociology and history. Okay, so here you can see that the two social sciences, history and sociology, are different. The points of difference between the two may be noted. Okay, so sociology is interested in the study of the present social phenomena with all their complexities, right? But history deals with the past events of man. Sociology is relatively a young social science, you know, because it has been established very recently. It has a very short history of its own. Okay, not even 2 centuries old, but history is an age old social science. Okay, because we know that in India itself history has been written. Okay, we find written records right from the time of Mauryan time period, right? So it is a very very old age social science. Okay, even prior to that, during Harappan civilization we have history, right? Even we have written records, but we are not being able to decipher it. That's a different thing, but we have history from so many, like, millenniums of, or 3000 4000 years old. Okay, so it's a long story of 2000 years or even more, but sociology is just 200 years old, right? It is just 200 years old. Then sociology is an analytical science, but history is a descriptive science, I already told you. Or we can also say it is a normative science. Okay, it is a normative science. All right, and sociology is abstract in nature, we all know this, right? There's nothing new. It studies mostly regular, so you can give a reading of this, but history is what? Concrete. Whatever fact it is there, that is only history. Okay, but sociology will analyze on this fact, okay, in an abstract manner. Okay, so sociology is generalizing science, because sociology tries to establish a pattern across all types of societies. Okay, so that is why we say that sociology is a generalizing science, but history is individualizing science. Why? Because it is, as I said, that it is studying the society in an isolated manner, event wise. Okay, so history rarely makes generalization. History will not try to make a generalization that, see, American War of Independence, okay, or French Revolution were having this common pattern. History will never do that. Okay, however, historical knowledge is essential to understand the present. That is very important, and history is more useful to sociology in the study of development of society and the comparative study. Okay, because we are able to understand the social change, okay, only because we are able to compare different societies of different time period, and by taking help from what? History. If history was not there, then sociology would not have been possible. So history is, although not exactly a social science, history shares certain attributes with sociology. Okay, the study of history involves looking at the past to learn what happened, when it happened, and why it happened. Sociology also looks at historical events within their social context. Okay, so we have already discussed this. So again, now some examples, some historical events which sociologists examined. So this examples you have to quote in your exam, only then you will be getting marks. Now we'll not go into the details of these theories because we'll understand this in different chapters, but for example, you will again have to revisit this chapter after our thinkers are over. Okay, for example, I have already told you that how Karl Marx used historical materialism, and here we can show the relationship between history and sociology. Similarly, Durkheim will also take help of evolution of different societies. When we are talking about different evolution of societies, it is all about what? History. Okay, mechanical and organic solidarity he will talk about by talking about evolution of different societies. He will also talk about a modern society. Okay, that how the solidarity has changed in the society. Okay, so Durkheim has also. Similarly, Max Weber is also using history in order to give you a sociological analysis, and the name of the study is Protestant Ethics and Spirit of Capitalism. Similarly, Indologists like Indian sociologists like G.S. Khure, the first topic of sociology paper 2. Okay, even Louis Dumont, he talks about caste. Now when he's talking about caste, or G.S. Khure is giving his Indologist perspective, they are all trying to take help of history. Okay, so you have to quote these examples when we will discuss about this particular topic. Okay, then there is a thinker called E.H. Carr, and he says the more sociological the history becomes and the more historical the sociology becomes, the better it is. So by now you have all, I think you have understood this, because if there is no history in sociology, the subject will look very dull. Similarly, if there is no sociology in history, history will also look very dull. Okay, so there are also some like important quotes that we have already seen, that history is past sociology. So we have already discussed these quotes, right? So with this, like you can also like talk about some sociological concepts that use historical roots. Okay, like ethnicity. What is ethnicity? That is having a historical root. For example, Louis Dumont, when talks about caste, it is also a historical root. Nationality. Okay, these are topics of syllabus. Okay, nationality is also subject of sociology, but it is also taking historical roots. Religion, property relations, legacy. Okay, when we talk about religion, is it not having historical roots? Yes, it is having. When Durkheim will talk about religion, he'll use a word totemism or animism. Okay, it all talks about religion in primitive societies, very like ancient societies. Okay, now all this is what? History. Okay, so sociology and history is both well connected. We have also seen the differences and also tried to establish a close relation between sociology and history. Okay, so if you see a quick comparison, sociology is okay, it is trying to find what? Similarities, that is what? The pattern in different events, but history is talking about what? Differences in similar events. Okay, focuses on pattern of events, that is sociology, but history focuses on personalities and events. Sociology is analytical, but history is descriptive. Okay, sociology is generalizing, but history is particularizing, because it is doing it in an isolated manner. Sociology is nomothetic, but history is ideographic. Okay, now what is this? We'll understand this in chapter number 2. Okay, in our sociology as science. Okay, there we'll understand what is the meaning of nomothetic and what is the meaning of ideographic. All right, so with this we have come to an end between sociology and history. All right, and in lecture number 4, I had already talked about the sociology and economics, so we will not repeat this. So you have already got the notes, so you can go through the notes and give a thorough proper reading. I'll give you the questions and you need to write the answer. Okay, so I hope you have understood sociology and economics. We are not repeating it as of now. Okay, so please go back to the lecture number 4, and in the last part we have already discussed sociology and economics. So next we will, and in the topic of sociology and economics, okay, similarly how different thinkers have used like to study economics. For example, Marx, when he talks about economic determinism or mode of production, so sociology and economics is also again having what? A close relation. That is what you need to establish. Okay, so again there are many political the contemporary use. Okay, for example, Michael Mann, in modern times societies are becoming economies. Okay, so Michael Mann is trying to say that now societies are becoming economies. For example, a particular society is known by its economy. Okay, for example, if we talk about, suppose a tribe in Karnataka who are, for example, say growing coffee plantation. Okay, so they will be known by that economy. For example, if we talk about, say, suppose Maldives. Okay, so or Mauritius. Okay, now we know that they are what? These societies are what? tourist society. Okay, it is like it is known for tourism. So you see that societies are becoming what? Economy. So a very beautiful line said by Michael Mann. Okay, so similarly you can establish a lot of examples here. Okay, so feminist is also giving a like the concept of glass ceiling. Okay, or the pink collar job. There are particular type of jobs are related to this what? To this particular gender. Okay, so for example the hospitality sector, this is related to the female gender. So this is what? This is also sociology is becoming what? Economy. Okay, so again in like for example nowadays when we talk about, for example, if there is a there is a topic of inclusive growth in your GS3 paper, right, or there is a topic of developmental issues in GS2. Okay, now what is development? Okay, what is development, or what is the difference between growth? Growth is a pure economic term. Okay, but development is also having a sociological angle in it. Okay, because we are talking in development, we talk about poverty is a sociological analysis. Okay, we talk about, for example, nowadays we are talking about, for example, your green GDP, right? When we are talking about like gross domestic product, that is a pure economic term, but we nowadays we also talk about green GDP, or we talk about gender budgeting in economics. Okay, so what is gender budgeting? It is again a sociological perspective. Okay, from the gender perspective. So all these things are showing us that there is a close relation again between sociology and economics. Okay, so again I request you to go back to the fourth lecture and please see the sociology and economics discussion part, and please go through the notes that I have already provided to you. Okay, now next we will be starting with sociology and political science. Okay, now these are very important part. We have to study these subjects, okay, and its comparison with sociology in great details, because you can expect one question in your examination on like every year. Okay, one question will definitely come from this topic, so it is a very important topic and we'll cover it in great details. Okay, so let's start with sociology and political science.